Rebuilding a Burnac Vulcan model steam engine toy part 6. Varnish removal from the oscillating cylinder, followed by cleaning and polishing it. Wire brushing the last of the paint from the base, then painting both the base and the burner. This first clip shows the condition of the oscillating cylinder once I removed it from the cellulose thinners bath. Most of the paint has gone, and the varnish that was present on the cylinder is now just a sticky mess. The remains of the varnish was very easy to remove with a piece of Scotch-Brite. Rebuilding small steam toys is a bit of a problem because almost always they are varnished. They are usually very old and the varnish is badly damaged. I find the best non-violent and safest method of removing varnish from old steam engines is to put the parts into a bath of cellulose thinners. And as I've shown many times, it also works for paint removal. And as I've also shown many times, here I'm using a wire brush in my bench-mounted Proxxon drill to clean up the part after the varnish has gone. It's not enough to just remove the varnish because underneath the varnish the whole area is corroded and tarnished slightly. These cheap wire brushes that I have don't seem to fit very well in the collet of my Proxxon motor tool. I think I'm going to change this for a proper chuck. They're not very expensive from Proxxon. The only trouble is they don't always fit the drill and you have to machine a part at the top. After the wire brush treatment, it's time for some Brasso. I never noticed, but on the tin it says Brasso metal polish wadding for brass, copper, stainless steel and chrome. I always have a couple of tins of this in the workshop. And as you can see, it really is good for cleaning up tarnished metal. The difference is quite astounding. The paint's gone, the varnish has gone, and it's sort of polished up. It would polish up better than this, but I think this will be okay. The other day, when I was looking on YouTube for the design of the safety valve of a Burnac Vulcan, I watched some videos. And it became apparent that some of these people who were renovating models like this didn't really understand how they worked. For instance, the screw in the block where the steam pipe goes in throttles the exhaust, not the steam inlet to the cylinder. As you screw in this brass screw, it's long enough to cover the exhaust port. Please bear this in mind if you need to make a new valve like I'm going to do. The threaded part of the valve needs to be able to go all the way across the exhaust port inside. Back to the job now, and I'm just removing the last traces of paint from the base. Over the years, because the burner sits in this position, this paint was quite well baked onto the metal. But after a couple of days in my bath of cellulose thinners, followed by a thorough going over with the wire brush in my Proxxon motor tool, all of the paint from the top disappeared, apart from the paint that was still in the recesses where the bolt holes are. My scriber made short work of that, and once I'd poked out all the loose paint, I dipped one of my toothbrushes in the cellulose thinners mixture to remove every trace of the paint. The underside of this base wasn't particularly smooth, so here I'm using a piece of steel plate that's going to be the base for a Stuart 501 boiler, and with the help of a piece of 400 grit wet-to-dry sandpaper, lubricated oddly enough with some cellulose thinners, I levelled off the bottom of the base, because as it was, it would have marked a polished table. Not that I'd ever put a steam engine on a polished table, but that is not the point. This is a very good quality casting, and the bottom part of the base wasn't machined at all, and I felt it would be a good idea to just smooth it off. And now the base is noticeably better. It sits perfectly level on the steel plate and doesn't wobble about at all. The next part of the job was to go into the outer part of the workshop, which is right next to a wide open door, and paint the part with some self-etched grey primer. This etching primer is really designed for steel, so it's very good for the steel water gauge cover, but it's not all that good for the aluminium base. And I think that is because the acid is designed to etch steel, not aluminium or brass. It really is excellent paint, and it seems to stick very well to just about anything. The inside of the steel water gauge cover is quite badly corroded. The first thing I need to do is remove the gasket that's in there. This was quite a simple job. Using a screwdriver, I just removed it. I intend to repair the damage to this water gauge cover using some JB Weld, but I'm etch priming it first. It's the best way to do it because you can see where you're working. These clips were recorded a couple of days ago. And now the etch primer on the base has had plenty of time to cure. I can now paint it using some Phoenix Precision Paints Great Northern Railway Loco Green, which is quite close to the paint that was on there in the first place. And coincidentally, it is almost the same colour as Mammoth Green. As with all Phoenix Precision Paints, it applies beautifully, and as it dries, it just settles back to a perfect finish. Here's the usual shot of the paint drying, and as you can see, it's looking good. It would appear that these aerosol cans do have a shelf life, and this one is a bit past its sell-by date. And the instructions state that you must shake the tin for at least 5 minutes. When I painted my Small Showman's engine's flywheel, there were some bits in the paint because it was too old. I've just repainted it using another tin that I shook for about 10 minutes. This clip shows the water gauge glass, which needs a bit of a clean, and the burner. The burner is now completely devoid of rust after spending quite a lot of time in some evaporust. The 5/16 of an inch diameter twist drill is to tell me which diameter of wick I need to order. And not unsurprisingly, the wick needs to be 5/16 of an inch in diameter. It wasn't very expensive, and according to eBay, it should be here in the next few days. I'm going to paint the burner, but I'm using high temperature paint for this because it does get quite hot. I get this paint from a company called Auto Paint Northern, the same people who do the excellent etching primer. To allow the painting of the underside of the burner, I stuck a piece of 1/4 inch diameter copper pipe into one of the holes where the wicks fit. And here, just for a change, I'm actually rotating the part as the paint dries. And by doing this, I can see that I've missed a bit. But never mind, I'll be giving it another coat anyway. All the parts except for the base and the burner are now in the plastic box to take down to the other workshop. I will commence reassembly when the paint on the base and the burner is dry. As always, stay safe, stay healthy. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. Please take the time to visit my Mainsteam Models website and click on the section of the website that says Video Playlists. And by doing that, you can find other videos that you may like to watch. And by using the playlists, you can actually watch the videos back to back.